folks. Welcome to another edition of Leader Exchange Podcast. My name is Tom Hargrove, and we're honored today to be interviewing and visiting with Fielding Miller, the CEO of CapTrust, who happens to be my boss, and I just haven't thought about that. But no, Fielding, we're really happy to have you here. Welcome to Fort Worth. Welcome to Leader Exchange, and we're excited to dig deep into your wisdom and thoughts on not only leadership, but telling us how you got here being the leader of CapTrust. So anyway, we're ready.
Thank you.
We're ready to go to work.
Thank you, Tom. I'm really excited to be on my very first podcast.
Me too.
We'll see how this goes.
Good. I hope it goes well because again, I work for you, so I really hope it goes well. Okay, let's start about 28 years ago. Okay. You were in the brokerage business. Mm-hmm. You had an idea, a plan, a vision, and to use your words, you were going to disrupt the brokerage industry. So you had this idea. You realized you couldn't do it on your own. So you had to go out and find some folks who believed in what you believed in. Let's start with that time period and explain to us how you were able to convince, at that time was about 10 folks, to join you, and then kind of take us on through with the progression of the success that you didn't start experiencing from day one, but eventually things really took off for CapTrust.
Yeah. Okay, so actually started with the brokerage firm, and that was a great experience. And one of the things that I learned, after I'd been there a while, that the relationship, the client advisor relationship, was a little difficult because of the commission structure. So, there was, whether you had a conflict of interest, didn't really matter because there was always a perception there was a conflict of interest when you're charging commissions. So often clients would think, is this the best interest of you or me? Mm-hmm. Okay. So in addition to that, the industry back then, there's a lot of shenanigans that go on. And one of the best ways to sum that up is, everybody's operating on commissions. However, 75% of the earned commissions came in the last week of every month. So you can kind of see they could generate revenue if they wanted to. So that doesn't really resonate with what's in the best interest of the client. So, at that time, there was a firm called E.F. Hutton. Some of the folks will remember them. And they were the first ones to come out with a fee-based arrangement. Instead of charging commission, you would charge a percentage of assets. Okay. And therefore, it didn't matter how many trades you did. It didn't matter what you were doing there. That didn't matter to the client because they had to know that the only reason you would do this was to make the account more valuable, because the assets go up, the fees go up. Mm-hmm. Assets go down, fees go down. So it was really a much better relationship in working with clients. And, after we built this up, I built a team. And the further we got into this practice, we realized that we really didn't fit in that environment. And so we decided to step out and hang our shingle as an independent registered investment advisor. Now, most people don't know the difference between a broker-dealer and what's called an RIA. And the difference is in an RIA environment, you're acting as a fiduciary. Okay. And what that means is in every situation, you have to put your client's interest first, contractually, legally, morally. And that seems obvious that that's what all advisors would do. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that the brokerage industry is not held to that same standard of care. The brokerage industry, all you have to prove is that the day you made a recommendation, it was suitable for that client. And then after that, you're not responsible for how that asset performs, that sort of stuff. So when we started the RIA, we really wanted to make a clear statement that we were pristinely objective. There were no conflicts, no perceptions of conflicts. So to do that, we came up with what's called the no golf ball rule. Okay. And it's a little catchy phrase there. And essentially what it meant is that we would never accept anything from a money manager or a vendor of any kind that we would recommend to a client. We would never accept any type of remuneration, whether it be game tickets, dinners, trips, swag, anything. We wouldn't accept anything that could possibly shade our objectivity anything as insignificant as a logoed golf ball.
Right.
And so that was we put our flag in the ground, and that was going to be our standard. And that's really the way we got started.
And that no golf ball rule mentality, that really wasn't handed down to you by regulators. That was something that you and your team said, this is what we're going to stand for.
Right.
And so it was really, every firm has the opportunity to have the no golf ball rule.
Yeah.
We're not going to pick on anyone here, but
Right.
you guys chose to go down that path.
Right.
I read an article a while back, and you were quoted in saying those first 3 or 4 years were the lean years. What did that look like? And secondly, what did you learn from those years? And thirdly, could I assume that maybe
You're not really going to give me a 3-part question.
I am. Yes, I am. Yeah. It's our first podcast. Why not? Deep down inside your gut, what was building? What was formulating a quality, a trait, something that was going to be with you over the next 28 years?
Okay. So
Lean years.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you. So here we go. When we, really focused on this fiduciary model and fee-based advisory, at this time it was the 90s. And if you looked at the stock market returns, the decade of the 90s was as good as it's ever been. The stock market compounded at 18% a year for 10 years. So my dentist could make more money trading stocks than I would make for him, because we're going to be more conservative. So it was interesting that our, bold new move to be, strict fiduciaries, all fee-based, nobody really cared, because they're making money. They don't care about the commission, right? Mm-hmm. However, where we did get traction was with retirement plan sponsors, 401ks, pensions, profit sharing plans, because they were fiduciaries. So we pivoted our business strategy, and we still had wealth management clients. That's where we started, and we started focusing on that market segment, and we really started getting some rhythm. And so we generated a lot of new business through these retirement plans, but we also found that the owners of these businesses and some of the retired employees came to us to be their wealth management advisor. So there was a lot of synergy between those two business lines. So that's essentially how we got started. And then later on, and I get into this when we talk about how our business accelerated, that became, because we built out this retirement business and we invested in it time and time again, we became a market leader. It was in the early days of retirement advisory. As a matter of fact, there really wasn't an industry back then of advisors. And we competed with the providers, the people that do the record keeping, the Fidelities, and back then First Union Bank and folks like that. So they were actually our competitors. Well, then Sarbanes-Oxley came around in 2002, and they reminded everybody that retirement plans there's a fiduciary obligation, and it created a bright yellow line. Either you're a fiduciary or you're not. So they had to back off, right? And now we're sitting out there. We're one of the very few retirement plan advisors in the country. And so all of a sudden, the wind, we've been going into the wind all these years. All of a sudden, the wind hit our sails. Yeah. And so our business took off, the retirement plan. And so, we continued to invest in that business. And then over time, we decided we're onto something. Let's build out a national model. And we were going to do that through acquisition of retirement advisory firms. And so we discovered that you could get to 85% of our target market plans in 20 states. You don't have to be in 50 states, 20 states. So we were going to buy a business in each of those states. And it's how we started our national footprint. Mm-hmm. And so that chugged along very well. And we continued to invest. And, the revenue back then was 70% retirement revenue, 30% wealth management. Fast forward 10 years, it's still 70-30, meaning that the wealth's growing just as fast. And that's not where our marketing efforts were. Yeah. And so we realized we had this synergy here. And then that was the way that, we continued to accelerate our growth. Now, fast forward in 2000 and maybe 10 or let's call it 2014, 15, the wealth management industry started to consolidate. So these wealth management advisory firms are now selling, right? And so since we'd already done these acquisitions and had 10 years of experience, we were sitting in a pretty good place to fold in firms like you and your team at Omega, because they wanted to be part of what we're building. And so, there's some serendipity in there. We absolutely face a lot of adversity. I'd rather face it in the front end than the back end. And right now we're downwind.
Well, all right. So for 28 years, let me
Is that too long of an answer?
No. It's great.
I don't know the rules.
It's great. So today, 1,600 employees, trillion in assets. We've got 90 offices across the country. We have clients in every state. Revenue has gone through the roof. Back in the early days, it wasn't always like that. So from here to where we are today, and let's dig deep into your soul here. Leadership qualities. How have you evolved throughout this tremendous growth, success, setbacks, whatever you want to call it? But how have you evolved through all of this? And what do you like about what you've evolved into, and what were you wishing? I wish maybe I hadn't focused so much time on that.
Right. Well, I guess you're getting at, what's my leadership philosophy or
you bet.
approach.
You
Yeah.
bet.
So,
yeah.
It all comes down to servant leadership. You have to view yourself as privileged to lead your colleagues. And I remember so distinctly. So we started CapTrust. I was 36. And frankly, I was about economics.
Yeah.
The fiduciary model is great, but I want to create some wealth for my family. I had Depression era parents. It was hammered into my head. You need to be economically independent because you can't depend on others. So that's where I was, and we were doing fine. And then a friend of mine gave me a book, Halftime. When I turned 40 years old, and Halftime's a book by Bob Buford. And just essence of the book, it's a Christian-based book. It's really good. And it was about change your focus from success to significance. That was a heart change, big time. And it just it was an epiphany moment for me. So when I did that, and I said, let's just focus on everybody we touch, because we touch clients, we touch vendors, we touch competitors, we touch the community, we touch the maintenance crew that comes through. You have an opportunity to touch so many people. So let's just use this as a platform for that. And that, it's rooted in our Christian values. And almost instantaneously, the success took off. It was amazing. So there's a God thing there, right? So that was a major heart change, and it's really about what we are today. And then the other thing I would say about my leadership approach, or the way I think about it, is you've got to have really strong alignment. Okay, so think culturally. You got to have a strong culture. Alignment means that we're all rowing in the same direction. We have the same values. And it's the same esprit de corps. We're all upbeat, high tempo people trying to do good. And a major component of that is I share equity with every single employee, and it's awarded. It's not purchased. That's incredibly rare. I'm not bragging, but it is rare. However, it's smart business, because the more people you have walking the halls, thinking and acting like owners, the more successful you're going to be. And so right now, out of our 1,600 employees, we have 900 that are shareholders. 100% has the path to that. No longer than 3 years, they'll have some stake, and they get more every year. So that alignment, the cultural alignment, with the value set and the vision that you share, and all of a sudden you're sharing success, you're sharing the rewards and the risk. Let's not forget, has been just pivotal in our success.
All right, so switch the focus on folks like me. So throughout this 28-year journey, early on, you were recruiting and signing on folks who had this mentality. Well, I did the math, and you are today 28 years older than you were when you started CapTrust. Are you looking at the next generation of advisors and CPAs and so forth who might have a different mentality when it comes to servanthood and making a living and fill in the blank? I mean, you started getting with these folks, but now today, is it a different landscape? Are you having to work harder into convincing or measuring people up to see if they really fit your culture here at CapTrust?
No. There's plenty of people out there.
Good answer.
There's plenty.
That's great.
But so the key is differentiating who will be a cultural fit, and it's not everybody.
Right.
It's a very tight filter. I'm reminded of the Chick-fil-A story. So about 15 years ago or so, we had a gentleman named Buck McCabe, who was one of the original Chick-fil-A executives. I think he was the chief operating officer for Truett Cathy. And, they were telling the story about how they started and how the business evolved. And it's an incredibly successful business, and there's reasons for it. He talked about that they were so discriminating about who could have a store. And back then you could only have one store. Now you can have as many as 3. So they would go through 10,000 applications for one manager, 10,000. And you know what they stand for, right? But they're looking for the right person. And you had to work in the store. So if you ever wonder why the employees are different and the service is different, it's because the owner and manager are there. Yeah. Okay. So then the question came up, Mr. McCabe, you started in this, now you're at 1,000 stores. I think now they're probably 3,000. He says, how in the world can you get out to every location? This is what got me. He says, young man, we don't have to go to every location. We're already there. I'm like, So, if you get the right people, you don't have to manage them.
Yeah.
We're all in this together, and this gets back to the alignment. But that was a striking comment that really gave me even more passion to be very careful who are going to be your leaders, who are going to be your colleagues. And that's held true.
That's a great story. And guys, folks will look at you and say, my gosh, he's got this great company. How can you keep on doing it? You would like to, but you don't have to go to every single CapTrust office. You can't. Yeah.
Now, I know anybody that's come through the door and like yourself and your team through a merger, I know them. I know, well, at least I know the senior folks, and I will meet, I'll be out, early on. But then it kind of takes a life of its own.
Yeah.
So
stay on this topic of these good stories, other companies that are doing well, and you try to maybe replicate their business model. Talk about mentors. I have some in my life. Most of them were coaches, but mentors or organizations, people that you can only learn so much by reading. And sometimes you just have to get in with people and have discussions and share ideas and share your failures. What comes to mind for you when you look at not just the last 28 years, but your entire career?
That's a great question, because I can go all the way back to the beginning, right? So this firm that I was with, this brokerage firm, it's a North Carolina-based firm, great people, and that they got in trouble. The culture cracked, and it was really, the stock was way down. It was in the papers. This Charlotte, North Carolina-based firm was kind of on the ropes, and before some of that happened, the chief investment officer, a gentleman named Jim Morgan, kind of threw up his hands and left the firm and went back to his hometown to run a family asset management business. So when the chairman says this thing is not working, he decided to let go of the senior team, bring back Jim Morgan to be the CEO. Jim's never been a CEO. Okay, so he walks in the door to this broken business, really. I mean, just culturally broken. And he turned it around. And see, I watched this. He turned it around 100% on culture. One handshake at a time, one handwritten note at a time. He knew your family. He knew about you. He cared about you. He's a Sunday school teacher. Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange firm with the CEO as a Sunday school teacher, it's a little unique, right? So, and I learned a lot. He gave me advice over the years, but more than anything, I watched it, and he rebuilt this firm, and it turned out to be very successful. Now, fast forward it, there's a company in North Carolina, Krispy Kreme Donuts. A lot of people have heard of them. They're really good, really bad for you, but they're really good. And he was on their board, and the same thing happened. There was a public company, and they got in trouble. They were a darling of Wall Street, and then it crumbled. And so the board asked him to step in and be CEO. He did it again. it wasn't some financial, construct or thing like that, or changing the product lineup or ripping out management. It was, we're going to build this new culture. So I got to watch that, right? I got to watch him. Yeah. He's still to this day a very valued mentor of mine. Mm-hmm. Not as much business, but life in my faith walk. And more recently, I had had some interactions with Joe Gibbs, the former Redskins coach. I'm sure he's real popular around here, right? Big fan. I'm sure you are, the Redskins.
Absolutely.
He's in 2 Hall of Fames.
Yeah,
NFL
he sure is.
And
NASCAR.
But I was introduced to him a few years ago, and I helped him go through a business transaction to raise some capital. So we got to spend a lot of time with each other, and just hearing how he went about business and how his faith was all through that, and his principles, and his team was like that, and then later on. He also lost both of his sons. Wow. They were in the business and about 3 or 4 years apart when they were like 40. So that's all the children he had. And so we had that connection. But, just watching successful leaders build companies through culture is stamped in my mind.
That's beautiful. I noticed something on our corporate website. There's a timeline. And you and your marketing team have plotted the significant events of CapTrust, milestones. Nowhere on there mentions bear markets, bankruptcy, setbacks, theft, tragedy. Anybody can manage through the good times, and you know that. It's what's in between those points that we really don't get to see. You could take this in any direction you want, but how we know how the success has impacted you leadership-wise as a godly man and a leader and a husband and a father. But those setbacks that we can't see on that timeline, how does that impact you?
Okay. I like this question. It's kind of like the fat pitch. I love this question. All right. So I started as a broker in February of 1987. The market collapsed in October of 1987.
I was swinging the bat in 87. I don't remember much about that.
I've got a great baseball name, but I was terrible at baseball.
You do have a great name.
Yeah,
you really do.
Anyway, so as a rookie broker, the world collapsed. I didn't even know what world I was in at that point. Yeah. But what I did notice is all the brokers were afraid to call their clients. I didn't have any clients, so I just started calling people. Yeah. So it turned into a positive. That's a good lesson to learn. Yeah. And then, you go through the dot-com crash, you go through the Great Recession in 08, 09. There have been really, really difficult times in the investment advisory business. And one of the things that we have done every single time is we get more aggressive. Once Wall Street starts laying off people or whatever, and the markets are down, everybody's pulling back, we lean into it every time. Because think about it. What happens when the stock market goes down, for example? What do we tell our clients to do? Stay the course.
Hang in there.
You're not going to get out. That's a terrible idea. Yeah. So why in the world would you pull back? Yeah. That contradicts your advice. And so we felt like, we believe in capitalism. We believe in the markets. So this is the time to get aggressive. So through every one of those cycles, we had hired in double digits percentage growth. So that's reflective of, in every adversity, there's opportunity. Yeah. And culturally, that's what I say all the time. When you think about the culture and the alignment and the equity sharing, that's great. You're growing, all that stuff. But I remind them and say the power of this culture, we're going to be able to execute on opportunities, but the power will come through adversity. Think of COVID, think of other things. And so every time we get adversity, nobody blinks. And I will say time and time again, everybody relax. I know these companies are failing left and right. Everybody's got a seat. You're not going to get a bonus, but you've got a seat, get back to work. And that drops the pressure on them. So, this adversity has a way of really, building stronger relationships.
That's great.
Yeah, confidence.
That's great. Let's wrap it up. I have, it's a request, not a question. I always use the term at times when it's appropriate. I say when I was young and dumb. When you were young, you weren't dumb. But in that early time of you thinking about creating CapTrust, here you are today. you look back and do you say to yourself, God, I wish somebody would have told me about this or that, or the impact on my marriage, or my sleep, or my checkbook, or I just wish somebody would have. Well, here you are today, and there's some folks listening to this, and I promise you, they haven't turned it off yet because they're waiting for this answer. Give them the advice, the counsel, the guidance that you wish you would have gotten, and give it to them, because some of them are this close from doing it. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna take a chance, and they got to find some buddies who are gonna want to embrace their vision. Help them with this idea.
Yeah, it's not really that complicated. In the end, you have to get people to follow you, and entrepreneurs get the credit for being the risk takers. They've got this vision, they're ready to go for it, ready to mortgage their house. What about the people that follow them? They're taking more risk because they don't even know if this is going to work. Yeah. Right. So, invest in people, in relationships. An old saying that we use is, focus on relationships, not transactions. Don't be a transactional business person. Remember, everybody you touch, it's a fair deal. Mm-hmm. Squeezing out a little, being a better negotiator, squeezing out something that's detrimental to them longer term. Yeah. Where's the win in that? And so, the way we think about our business is there's three constituents. There's our clients, there's our colleagues, and there's our community. Yeah. And so in our mission statement, we talk about this. And so if you have great clients, but you don't take care of your colleagues, you're going to lose your clients. Yeah. Okay. If you have great clients and you keep your colleagues, but you don't really invest back with those folks out there that are hurting, and they're everywhere. It seems like, I know it's growing, homelessness or poverty or whatever it is. What's going to matter when you're 80 years old and you're looking back over your career? It's going to be the last one, because your clients have moved on, your colleagues have moved on, mostly. And what impact did you have? So, and that seems a little bit, maybe too broad for somebody that's starting a business, but it will matter. And the other thing I would do is tell them to invest in themselves, meaning that you need to know thyself. And I went through a leadership program, Bell Leadership. I would recommend it to anybody. It's you can look it up, Bell Leadership, BELL. They're located in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it really taught me how to be a leader and to grow the business by knowing who I am, how my personality is made up, how I impact other people. There's always a gap between your intentions and what other people see. Mm-hmm. Other people judge you by your actions. You judge yourself by your intentions. There's always a gap. Yeah, it's always a gap. And so you got to learn how to close that gap and communicate better with people, build relationships. So invest in reading. Half times are great, but I wish I'd have gotten that book sooner. Yeah. And those sorts of things. And, you got to plan, be convicted. It's not about, out here, when I talk about risk, you talk about wildcatters. I didn't take that kind of risk at all. You don't have to do that. You're not going to invent the next whiz bang that you could, but that's not really it. You get a solid business plan. You get good advisors. You have good morals and, good character, and you invest in your people and move on.
That's great. Fielding, I think we did pretty good.
We'll find out.
Well, thank you for joining us for Leader Exchange Podcast. We've been visiting with Fielding Miller, CEO and founder of CapTrust. If you want to know more about Leader Exchange, go to leaderexchange.org. And there's a bunch of information on there. We gather on the second Thursday of every month for lunch. Learn more about that. We bring in some great speakers. We can learn a lot from them. And again, we thank you for your attention and for joining us.